being dealt that are having a devastating impact. So I think there is a lot of area where we can work together to address these challenges.
What about you, Congressman? This is your party in the majority. $4 billion in grants just went to local law enforcement. Does Congress need to do anything more to address crime?
When I was chair of judiciary at the state level, Iowa moved very aggressively after the George Floyd homicide. We immediately said that we were going to allow our Attorney General to investigate crimes directly so that we weren't waiting on county attorneys. We made sure that bad law enforcement officers couldn't be cycled through without some kind of a background check. We made sure that we made a direct investment in mental health across the state and made sure that our regional, both our urban but also our rural communities had access to that. And ultimately, we also worked with our law enforcement to make sure that law enforcement had a better relationship with the community rather than one of conflict. There's some tangible successes we've seen at state levels. Let's bring those up to the federal level and make sure they can work the same way.
So you do want to see more legislation on?
Yeah, I think there's absolutely more that needs to be done. What doesn't need to be done are what I will call these fig leaf grants, the idea that we can just hire more minority officers in rural Iowa. That is a very challenging thing to do. We should be identifying, and we saw tragically even in Memphis, that alone is not a silver bullet solution. We've really got to get to the effort of good policing, but also recognizing when there is good law enforcement, we hold that up as a partner in a community. That's where this money could be going, and it needs to be accountable. I think far too much of this has gone to some major metropolitan areas, which have seen actually crime spike in those neighborhoods.
Congresswoman, you said it would be good to revive the George Floyd Policing Act, but we're so far past that right now, we really need to kind of escalate the conversation faster. What do you mean? What are you calling for?
So, let me be really clear. There is a proliferation of disinformation and bias in conversations about crime and conversations about policing. And to be very clear, police violence is crime. We cannot say that we care about crime, but then do nothing, choose to do nothing over and over and over when the crime is committed by a police officer. There are statistics that show that less than 2% of police officers who are engaged in a misconduct are ever indicted at all. And while we can all celebrate that 5 black police officers, right, and let it not escape us that it was only when they were black that there was swift action, and there was a 6th who was not black, and there was not swift action, that we can say that Tyree should be alive. So should Tatiana Jefferson. So should Antoine Rose II from my district. So should Mike Brown. So should Philando Castile. They should all be alive. So when we're talking about crime and we're talking about how we're going to solve it, when I say that we need to change the conversation, we need to acknowledge that public safety does not begin with policing. Public safety begins with investments. It begins with addressing our own implicit and explicit biases in policy making and education and appropriations.
So when the president talks about reviving George Floyd Policing Act, you're saying not as it's currently written. You want more measures.
Absolutely. I want us to be intentional at every step about addressing racial bias, about addressing poverty, about addressing crime, and about addressing police violence.
I think Representative Lee is absolutely right. Listen, I would vote for the George Floyd Policing Act if it was on the floor tomorrow, but more needs to be done. Additional
It won't be put on the floor tomorrow under Republican leadership.
Absolutely.
To be clear.
That's why I want to be clear also when our colleagues bring up that more should be done around this issue. The truth is that you look at places like California or most of the country, we are actually safer today than we were 15, 20, or 30 years ago, statistically. And so there's a lot of concerns around crime, and there should be. We all want to be safe. But I also think we also got to look at the data and actually look at the facts. The truth is that every single election cycle, it just seems that there's a lot of focus on crime and inner cities. And the truth is that we are safer than we were 20 or 30 years ago.
But there was a spike in violent crime.
In New York State in particular, the reason there was a focus on crime by voters is because they didn't feel safe. You had people being pushed in front of oncoming subway cars. You had people being stabbed in the street. By the way, the vast majority of victims of crime are black and brown people. So to act as though there's not a crime issue, I think is dismissing the fact that it is serious and people do not feel safe. And so, yes, we need to address the root causes of why someone may turn towards crime or why they may find themselves as part of a gang. But we also need to hold people accountable with the decisions that they make. And I think part of the problem here is that oftentimes it is very easy to go say law enforcement bad. But the vast majority of people who are in law enforcement are good people. I come from a community that has strong law enforcement presence. 50% of households in my district have a cop, a firefighter, a first responder, or a veteran in them. They're good people, and they want to do right by our communities.
The vast majority of people in poor and working class neighborhoods are good people.
They are.
And they are victims of crime that we don't say
And they want
anything
police
about.
presence.
For instance,
Exactly. They would like to be
for
protected.
instance, there is no police presence when they're a victim of waste theft. We're not seeing anybody
You know what?
fair
I passed
laundering.
legislation
And I would
to
like to
prosecute
see it
that.
happening here,
And it
because
should
what we
be
don't
prosecuted.
see when we're talking about crime, we're really talking about white-collar crime. We're really talking about ways in which we're going to hold corporate criminals accountable. We're really taking any strides in any level of government to do anything about that, but we continue to talk about the crimes of desperation, and particularly the crimes in marginalized communities.
I want to ask you about some other issues, immigration and border security. It has been years, and there has been a failure to legislate on this. What's going to be different in a split Congress now? Do you see hope for this?
I do. I really do. The challenge right now is until we secure the border, we have a really porous situation where the folks who are coming here illegally are jumping ahead of the folks who are coming here legally. The folks who have set up shop in America and want to be good citizens are finding themselves outfoxed by people who are being encouraged to come here legally. And it's not like everybody has the chance. It's those who can get here.
Most Republicans in this Congress have been disingenuous on immigration. I'm an immigrant. I came to the U.S. when I was a young kid. I had the privilege and honor of becoming an American in my early 20s. I am grateful to this country. I love this country. Immigrants love this country. They just want an opportunity to be here, a pathway to citizenship.
But you're
or
talking
even
about
guest worker
dreamers.
programs.
You're talking about border security.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, there are different
can do both.
aspects of this.
What
part of this can get through in this Congress? Which piece?
So
I would like all of the above.
Could be
John, I agree with you on that.
The thing is that, unfortunately, there's this myth that Democrats somehow are concerned about a secure border, that we don't want an orderly process. But we also want to ensure that everybody wants a secure border, but we also want to ensure that we're talking about the humanity of people. These are people that are coming to this country that are desperate, that are suffering. And so this idea that we can't give these people justice, we can't support and help them, I think is anti-American. And I am hopeful, like some of you, I have talked to some Republicans on the other side that have an interest in a broader immigration reform package. And that's something that I hope that we can all work on.
My wife is an immigrant as well. And she came to this country about a decade ago in search of economic opportunity. She comes from Eastern Europe, a former Soviet satellite state. The bottom line here is this. We embrace immigration, all right? But we have to have a legal process. We need to secure the border. We need to increase border patrol. We need to increase the number of judges and court personnel to hear asylum cases. Nobody should be waiting 2 to 3 years to hear an asylum case with the hope that they may come back for the court hearing. That's insane. And then we need to fix the legal immigration process so that people who want to come here can do so legally and contribute to our communities, to our culture, to our economy. And I think there can be broad bipartisan agreement on this if everybody is willing to kind of give a little. Both sides have failed on immigration for years. For years. This is not one party or the other. Both sides have failed miserably here. And we have a situation that is unsustainable.
I want to move on to governance and debt. Can I see a show of hands? Are you all confident that America will avoid defaulting on its debt?
Yes.
I think
Show of hands.
I'd like to think so.
I hope so. You're confident we will avoid the cliff?
We absolutely will. The bottom line is this. We have incurred debt previously. We have an obligation to pay that. We will lift the debt ceiling.
Do you believe that some of your Republican colleagues who have been in a very different place on this will come along? And that the party...
Absolutely, but here's the point I would make. Over the past many decades, major spending reform has been tied to the debt ceiling. Okay, so the White House needs to recognize one thing. One-party rule in Washington is over. They need to negotiate with the Speaker in good faith to come to a long-term agreement that puts us on the path to fiscal solvency.
Social Security, health care, including Medicare, Medicaid, and then defense are the 3 biggest line items. Where do you cut? If you have to have this conversation, where do you cut?
Defense. The reality is that we can't keep asking the same people to compromise over and over and over. When we talk about these conversations, we have to humanize them. We have to be very clear what we are proposing to cut, who are going to be impacted by it.
What we've actually been spending all this money on is actually getting our country back on track. We just went through the single largest loss of life event in the modern era of our country. We lost over 1 million Americans. We spent money trying to keep people alive. We spent money trying to keep businesses afloat. We spent money to ensure that people were housed, people that needed support. And so Yes, there was significant spending, but it was spending to respond to this incredible pandemic.
So I have to be respectful and say, you're saying government's the solution for this. I'm saying states like Iowa that open back up, people were the solution.
We're in the business of government. Of course, government is.
Absolutely. So let's respect it.
As far as this unity amongst Republicans around the debt ceiling, the truth is there is no unity. The Democrats are united. We're not going to cut Social Security. We're not going to cut Medicare. And so I'm interested to know how we're going to get to this resolution, because we know that this issue, at the end of the day, impacts working people the most.
So the discretionary spending you would cut is also in defense?
Listen, I think if it was up to me, we'd be raising taxes on billionaires and corporations. That's how we would get more. But I think Representative Lee is right. I think we have to be able to look at an institution like the Pentagon.
So let's be very clear here. If somebody is looking for an opportunity to go to college, they have the opportunity to serve in the military, and it will help pay for them to have the privilege of going to college. What I will not do is see members of the military who are on the front line defending our very opportunity to even go to college have their paychecks cut, or their opportunity to defend themselves cut because of lackluster equipment.
Well,
the military is very... No, you just said Pell Grants versus military. Let's humanize it.
Even let's humanize. There's a difference between sending our troops somewhere defenseless and then looking at our defense budget.
Right.
Which is the highest of the next, 20 countries combined?
Right,
We're not saying that
we
we're
are
sending...
continually forced to defend the world.
With endless wars.
But you know, Speaker
Not
McCarthy,
that
on this
IRA.
program last week said when it came to cutting discretionary spending, actually one of the places he would look to trim fat was the Defense Department. You
Margaret, I
don't
think,
sound like you're okay with that.
So let's take, first of all, what he did say is take things off the table. We're going to protect Social Security. People have paid into that. They deserve to have that back. Republicans are committed to that. Let's take the Medicare that has gone out there to make sure that people have access to the health care they need to be successful off the table. When it comes to defense spending, what I just heard was cutting things across the board. If there's a review, everything should have the opportunity to be assessed.
So you're on board?
Overwhelming.
What?
Yeah, I think we should be looking across the board. And I would also say, here's where we have been successful in a state like Iowa that has the number one growth rate, is that we don't spend more than we take in.
But who are we cutting?
No, it's not about cutting.
Ask me, who are we cutting?
How about we grow the economy to begin with?
We haven't had a real budget process in a very long time. And you have to go line by line, and you need these departments and agencies to justify their spending. They have not had to do that in a very long time. We need a real budget process as part of this negotiation.
Sure, which takes time. We're going to have to leave it there. Thank you all for coming in, and I want to thank each and every one of you for joining our panel.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Now your 3-day weather forecast on Bloomberg 1130.
Mostly cloudy, breezy, so much milder today, and a high getting up near 50. Tonight becoming partly cloudy and a low down near 35. Tomorrow, partly to mostly sunny, breezy, high again near 50 degrees. What a welcome change after the last couple of days. Tomorrow night, clear to partly cloudy, low 30. And for Tuesday, increasing clouds, high near 45. That's your Bloomberg 3-day weather forecast. I'm Susanna Palmer, now Bloomberg Sports.
The Knicks host the 76ers. The LA Clippers join a group of teams interested in acquiring Nets guard Kyrie Irving. Others include the Lakers, Mavericks, and Suns. Irving's in the final year of a deal that pays him $37 million. The Athletic reports Irving has informed the Nets he plans to leave in free agency if he's been traded before Thursday's deadline. LeBron James can become the NBA's all-time scoring leader Tuesday. James needs 36 points to pass Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He scores 27 in their loss to the Pelicans. That's a Bloomberg Sports Update. I'm Joel Scher. Face the Nation on Bloomberg Radio.
That's it for us today. Thank you for watching. For Face the Nation, I'm Margaret Brennan. Today's guests were Republican Senator Ted Cruz of Texas, Democratic Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey, former top economic advisor under President Trump, Gary Cohn, and a bipartisan panel of new members of Congress with Representatives Robert Garcia, Zach Nunn, Summer Lee, and Mike Lawler. The executive producer of Face the Nation is Mary Hager. This broadcast was directed by Shelley Schwartz. Face the Nation originates in CBS News in Washington. For more Face the Nation, we're online at facethenation.com, and you can follow Face the Nation and CBS Radio News on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Face the Nation is also rebroadcast on our CBS News streaming network on Sunday at 1:30, 10 p.m. Eastern, and again at 4 a.m. the next morning. And it's available through our apps, CBS News and Paramount Plus.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your basement. There's a pair of overalls that overall you're not so into anymore. A perfectly good laptop that hasn't sat in your lap in months. And even more stuff. But still no jobs? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed. And they're the stuff inside your stuff. Even inside that winter coat that moved with you to Phoenix. Our job is to unlock those jobs. And it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. Donate to Goodwill. We sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover guitar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs. Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
I'm 54. So, basically, it's too late to start saving for retirement, right?
Not right. Starting to save, even in your 50s, can really make a difference.
Well, right now, saving seems hard to wrap my head around. Plus, with the way this year's been going...
Hey, listen, it's okay. You still got this. Just go to aceyourretirement.org. It's an online tool from AARP that can help you get your retirement savings on track no matter your age. It's free and only takes about 3 minutes.
I like 3 minutes.
Yeah, at aceyourretirement.org, you'll chat with Avo, the friendly digital retirement coach. Just answer a few questions and you'll get a personalized plan and tips to help boost your retirement savings. Tips that are easy to understand and tailored to your lifestyle.
I like that too.
Plus, it's sponsored by AARP, so you know they got your back. Just head to aceyourretirement.org and make your plan to start saving for retirement.
Thanks.
That's aceyourretirement.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've arrived in Philadelphia. Local time is 3:05 p.m. and the temperature is 67 degrees. At this time, you are now free to use your cellular devices.
You know that feeling when you get to turn your phone on after the plane lands?